Welcome to Mutt's American Crime Podcast, where the wild stories from America's crime past come alive. Today's episode dives deep into the life of one of the most notorious outlaws of the Wild West, John Wesley Hardin. From his violent beginning to his infamous end, Hardin's story is a bloody trail through Texas history. Let's start at the beginning. John Wesley Hardin was born on May 26, 1853, in Bohem, Texas. His father, James Hardin, was a Methodist preacher and schoolteacher, and his mother, Mary Elizabeth, was a devout Christian. The family moved several times during John's childhood, eventually settling in the small town of Sumter, Texas. Excuse me. Growing up during the Reconstruction era, Hardin was exposed to the violence and lawlessness that plagued Texas after the Civil War. By the age of 9, he was already proficient with firearms, a skill that would define his life. At the age of 15, he committed his first known killing. In 1868, he shot into an argument with a former slave named Major dispute escalated and Hardin shot and killed Hostenhausen, claiming self-defense. At 15, he also had stabbed a former or a current at the time classmate of his in the chest it was either over a girl or over a bunch of graffiti that had been painted on the schoolhouse wall, depending on the story that you hear. Personally, I think it might have been over the girl. Fleeing from law enforcement, Hardin went on the run. Over the next few years, he was involved in multiple shootings, often claiming he acted in self-defense. By the time he was 18, he had reportedly killed several men, though the exact number is disputed. As a teenager, Hardin's reputation grew. He became involved in feuds with Union soldiers, lawmen, and outlaws. In 1871, at the age of 18, Hardin killed a man named John Bradley in a gambling dispute in Albany, Kansas. The incident brought him to the attention of the legendary lawman Wild Bill Hickok, who was serving as town marshal. Hardin managed to avoid capture, but his notoriety only increased. Hardin's teenage years were marked by constant movement. He traveled across Texas, often using aliases and relying on the sympathy of friends and family to evade the law. He was involved in cattle rustling, horse theft, and a number of gunfights. By his own account, he killed more than 20 people before reaching adulthood. though historians believe the actual number may be lower. As Hardin entered adulthood, his crimes became even more brazen. He married Jane Bowen in 1872 and tried to settle down, but violence seemed to follow him wherever he went. In 1873, Hardin killed Deputy Sheriff J. B. Morgan in Comanche, Texas, after a heated argument. This killing forced him back on the road and back on the run. Hardin became involved in the Sutton-Taylor feud, a violent conflict between two Texas families. He sided with the Taylors and participated in several deadly encounters. During this period, Hardin's body count continued to increase. In 1874, Hardin killed Sheriff Jack Helm, a prominent lawman and member of the opposing Sutton faction. This act made him one of the most wanted men in Texas. The Texas Rangers, a legendary law enforcement agency, were tasked with capturing him. Hardin's ability to evade capture became legendary, though. He was known for his quick draw, deadly aim, and willingness to shoot first. He often boasted about his exploits, claiming to have killed over 40 men, though this number is likely exaggerated. In 1877, Hardin had been by 1877, Hardin had been on the run for nearly a decade. The Texas Rangers, led by Captain John B. Armstrong, intensified their efforts to bring him to justice. Hardin was eventually tracked to Pensacola, Florida, where he was living under the alias J. H. Swain. On August 23, 1877, Armstrong and his men confronted Hardin on a train. In a brief but violent struggle, Armstrong pistol whipped Hardin and arrested him. Hardin's capture was a major victory for the Texas Rangers and made headlines across the country. Hardin was extradited, to Texas and stood trial for the murder of Deputy Sheriff Charles Webb, a killing that had occurred in 1874. He was found guilty and sentenced to 25 years in prison. He spent 17 years in prison, during which time he studied law and became a model prisoner. He was released in 1894 for good behavior. Upon his release, Hardin received a law license and attempted to start a new life as an attorney in El Paso, Texas. However, Hardin's struggle to leave his violent past behind he became involved in a local political feud, and his reputation as a killer followed him everywhere. On August 19th, 1895, John Wesley Hardin's life came to a violent end. He was shot and killed by John Selman, a local lawman and gambler in the Acme Saloon in El Paso, Texas. The motive for the killing is still debated. Some say it was a personal grudge. Others believe it was related to Hardin's involvement in a local dispute. Selman approached Hardin from behind and shot him in the back of the head, killing him instantly. Hardin was 42 years old. Selman was later tried for murder, but was acquitted on the grounds of self-defense. I find that hard to believe that he shot him in the back of the head and was found innocent of self-defense. Sounds to me like there was some backroom justice going on, but that's my opinion. John Wesley Hardin remains one of the most infamous figures of the American Old West. His life was marked by violence, lawlessness, and a relentless pursuit of survival. While Hardin claimed to have killed over 40 men, historians believe the true number is closer to 20. Hardin's story has been romanticized in books, movies, and folklore, but the reality is far more complex. He was a product of his time, a violent era where the lines between lawman and outlaw were often blurred. That's all for today's episode of Mutt's American Crime. Again, I'm your host, the Celtic Mutt. John Wesley Hardin's life is a stark reminder of the chaos and brutality of the Old West. Join the next time, for another deep dive into America's criminal history.